Hey everybody, welcome back to our 5-part series where we're talking about, ironically enough, the 5 things you need to use MultiTracks. I have a bunch of links in the description of this video introducing you to first the podcast episode of Behind the Spacebar where I tell you what the 5 things you need to use MultiTracks are. Then next we talk about tips for choosing a computer for live performance, talk about what edition of Ableton Live you should get to run tracks, and then I share some tips for choosing a audio interface for live performance. In today's video, we're going to talk about some tips for choosing a MIDI controller. A phrase I often like to say is you don't want to look like you're checking your email on stage. And so you should get a MIDI controller. Now, I don't think a MIDI controller, in fact, I think we can all agree, a MIDI controller is not as important as an audio interface is to your setup because, like I mentioned in the previous video, last week's video, if you don't have an audio interface, then no one can hear anything of what you're doing. And absolute worst case, I mean, you could just press spacebar. I don't know why I need to pick up my my keyboard to show you what spacebar looks like, but worst case, you could just press spacebar on your computer to press play, and that's probably going to be enough for you. But I like to say, don't look like you're checking your email on stage. In fact, my friend Philip is the first person I heard use that phrase, and I thought it's genius because in a few years ago in a previous life, I was running tracks on stage in a playback type environment, but just, I was on stage, I was visible, I was seen, and I had a computer there. And I remember people asking, what are you doing? Like, are you surfing the internet? Like, why are you on stage with a computer? And it wasn't a great setup because I looked like I was checking my email on stage. I looked like I was on the YouTubes or the Facebook, and I didn't blend in with the band. So I think using a MIDI controller is super important. We talked about this many times before on this channel. It's important to not look like you're checking your email. It's important to allow you to stay focused on the music. That's the most important part, particularly if you're running tracks. You want tracks to be a part of what you're doing. You want to play with tracks, not 2 tracks. Playing 2 tracks is restrictive. I personally have no interest in that, but I do have interest in playing with tracks and having them back up what I'm doing and support me with what I'm doing. So I wanted to share really quickly. I've got 4 really quick tips to help you choose a MIDI controller for live performance that you can use on stage to run tracks. I've got tons of videos sharing my top picks, whether you're a guitar player, drummer, whatever it is. I'll link all those in the description of this video. Again, tons and tons of videos linked up in the description, so make sure you check those out. But let's get to our 4 tips for choosing a MIDI controller for live performance. Number 1, find something that allows you to continue playing your instrument. What I mean by that is if you're a drummer, you've got your hands on sticks, then maybe don't buy a MIDI controller that you have to put your sticks down and reach over and touch. One of my pet peeves, particularly for drummers, is like seeing them have their hands in the on the stick and then switching sticks and trying to cymbal swell and reaching over to a computer and trying to type to load a song to interact with Ableton Live. I'm not a huge fan of that. So for drummers, maybe consider a drum pad, or you could consider a foot controller so you can keep your hands on your sticks and control your tracks with your feet. Again, I prefer a drum pad when I'm consulting. I'm not a drummer personally, but when I'm consulting with drummers and working with drummers, I prefer more of a drum pad type scenario. But it depends on your setup. I know drummers that use an Oakbourne Mini and it works really well for them. But I would highly suggest you find something that allows you to keep playing your instrument, particularly for guitar players. I mean, this is a pretty easy one to understand. If I'm playing guitar, whether it's acoustic or electric, it's not a great setup for me to like hit a chord, let it ring out and reach over and try to stretch to press something on my MIDI controller, where I could just have a MIDI foot controller and like the one, there we go, right there, right behind me. Also from Oakbourne, the Floor Vista, I can have that at my feet and I can control Ableton Live from my feet without ever using my hands. In fact, I've worked with folks that are vocalists, that they're the kind of playing the role of vocalist, music director. They're the one running tracks. And in that scenario, they've used a MIDI foot controller. It's at their feet. It's discreet. That rhymes. It's really good. And no one has any idea that they're controlling tracks because it's all at their feet, which is super, super helpful. So tip number 1, find something that allows you to continue playing your instrument. Tip number 2, find something that doesn't make you think. Here's one of my pet peeves that I see a lot of people do. They run tracks in Ableton Live's arrangement view. They use locators to assign song sections, and then they buy a MIDI controller like this, the Akai APC 40 MK2, which I want to say is a fantastic MIDI controller, but it's not a great MIDI controller when you're running tracks in arrangement view. If you're doing running tracks in arrangement view, then you shouldn't use a grid-based controller, because you look at this and you get no visual feedback of what your song sections are. I've seen some people that try to take I thought I had some next to me. I don't think I do, but try to take like board tape, and they'll write on the board tape and put it on their APC40, and they'll write verse, chorus, bridge, whatever it is. That just doesn't work in this particular scenario and setup. You look over and you look at the MIDI controller and you go, which row is songs, which row is sections, and you've just MIDI mapped far too many things. So I'll link in the description of this video as well too, on a video I have that I call MIDI mapping for live performance. You'll see in just a second a MIDI controller that I like. All right, I'll go ahead and spoil it and show this to you. This is the Oakbourne Mini. I've talked about this many times before, by Oaktone, the same folks, Jeff, who makes those controllers above my head. The reason I love this is it doesn't make me think. Do I need to play? Then press play. Do I need to stop? I press stop. Do I jump to a previous locator? Then previous. Do I need to jump back or ahead? Then I hit next. I'm not looking at something that gives me no visual feedback, that I have no clue where I'm going. So again, nothing against the APC40 Mark II. As far as grid-based MIDI controllers go, it's one of my favorites. It's a great one. But again, I don't suggest it because it's going to make you think if you're using it in arrangement view. There's just too many buttons there. Number 3. Find something that fits your style vibe. Some people would be terrified with this guy. It's 4 buttons, 2 extra buttons in case you need it. You get visual feedback, plays, flashing, and time. Some people would be terrified with this. For me, it's like from heaven. I mean, it's literally the best MIDI controller for me because that's all I do. 4 things: play, stop, previous, next. Occasionally I'll do like a solo, oh crap button. Occasionally I'll do a fade out, or, you know, who knows what else. But this is enough for me. Some people look at this and go, I can't have that. Some people need to have an iPad with TouchOSC and they want every single song section mapped out to them. I'm a little more okay, going back to tip number 2, finding something that doesn't make you think. I'm a little more okay with TouchOSC with every section mapped than I am with an APC40, because an APC40 doesn't give me visual feedback of where I'm going. At least with TouchOSC, I see chorus and I click chorus, right? But again, find something that fits your style or vibe. This works great for me. It's really great. Do you like faders more than you like encoders? Do you not need faders and encoders, and you would rather have a 25 key keyboard and use the keys on the keyboard to map to songs? Again, whatever works for you, great, do it. Find something that fits your style vibe. Final tip: consider how you'll connect your MIDI controller. Will your MIDI controller connect via USB? Consider that. Will it connect via 5-pin MIDI? Let me grab a audio or a MIDI interface here that has 5 pins so you guys can see that. So there's 5-pin MIDI DIN on the front of the Mio XM. Does it have 5-pin MIDI? Will you connect it directly to your computer? If not, you're probably going to be buying one of these guys, Mio XM. You're going to use that host port on the back to connect your USB MIDI controller to it and extend it via Ethernet back to your computer. That's one of my favorite setups. It's a great setup, in fact. But if you're going to be doing that, you've got to think about, what are the connection types on your controller? Is it USB? Well, I don't want to extend USB, so I need it to keep it near my computer, or I need to pair it with a Mio XM so that I can send that a long distance. So when it comes to choosing a MIDI controller on stage, find something that allows you to continue playing your instrument, stay focused in the moment, stay focused in the music. Find something that doesn't make you think. Simpler is better. That's something I always prefer. Simpler is better. If you want access to a lot of things, consider an iPad running TouchOSC. 3, find something that fits your style vibe, whether that's really simple or whether that's like total control, total customization like TouchOSC. And then finally, consider how you connect USB, 5-pin MIDI, and make sure you've walked through everything you need. Don't use USB extenders. If you need to extend anything, get a Mio XM to extend it. There's a lot there. Now, I've got specific videos where I suggest MIDI controllers based on what instrument you're playing, based on what you're trying to do: grid-based controllers, simple controllers, foot controllers. And I've linked those in the description of this video, but to make it really easy for you, I put together a free gear guide that you can download that's going to share all my suggestions, all my tips for gear that's road tested, mother approved. To get that, you can head to fromstudiotostage.com/gear. It's completely free. Just enter your name, email. Again, it's fromstudiotostage.com/gear. And you can find all of my suggestions on gear that's going to hold up, that's going to work really well, and that you're going to love on stage. Now, if you love gear like I do, I post a new video all about gear every Saturday, 10 a.m. Central, and every other day of the week, Monday through Sunday, I post a brand new video, tutorial, podcast every day at 10 a.m. Central. To make sure you see that, hit subscribe to this channel, hit the bell icon so you're notified when I post new content. What I've been suggesting people do: download the YouTube app on your phone, and when make sure you hit the bell icon, make sure you are subscribed. When I post a new piece of content, check out your phone, you'll get a notification and go, yeah, I'm super interested interested in that, and I don't care about that gear video this week, and you can pass it, or you can choose to watch it if you like. Now, I hope you choose to watch the next one, and I hope to see you there. Take care, everybody. Bye.